Hare Krishna. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Jayo Shri Gopal Jayo Shri Gopal Jayo Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, Jayo Gaur Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Stotara Shata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की, ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की, नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, गंगा मैया की, जमुना मैया की, तुलसी देवी की, भक्ति देवी की, सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhiraye. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namaha Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangriye. reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, the chapter entitled The Pandavas Retire Timely. Suta Uvacha Evam Krishna Sakha Krishno Bhratra Ragya Bhratra Rajya Vikalpitah Nana Shankaspadam Rupam Krishna Vishlesha Karshitah Suta Uvacha Evam Krishna Sakha Krishno Bhratra Ragya Vikalpita Nana Shankaspadam Rupam Krishna Vishlesha Karshita Suta Uvacha Evam Krishna Sakha Krishno Bhratra Rajnya Vikalpita Nana Sankalpadam Rupam Krishna Vishlesha Karshita Mataji's. Word to word meanings. Suta Uvacha. Suta Goswami said, Evam, thus, Krishna Sakha, the celebrated friend of Krishna. Krishna, Arjun, Bhratra, by his elder brother. Ragya, King Yudhishthir. Vikalpita, speculated. Nana, various. Shankaspada, based on many doubts. Rupam, forms. Krishna, Lord Shri Krishna. Vishlesha, feelings of separation. Karshita, became greatly bereaved. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Suta Goswami said, Arjun, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna. over and above all Maharaj Yudhishthir's speculative inquiries. Purport. Being too much aggrieved, Arjun practically became choked up, and therefore it was not possible for him to reply properly to the various speculative inquiries of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Sincerely seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, those who have come here and those who are online. It's only with your mercy I will be able to speak something meaningful for the glorification of the Lord and for my own purification. So, today's verse, Suta Goswami said, Arjun, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna over and above all Maharaj Yudhishthir's speculative impurities. So, the title of the chapter today is The Pandavas Retire Timely. So, there is one word in this title, timely, which needs some mention. Time is the driving factor in the material world. An internal energy of the Lord which agitates the three modes and kickstarts the process of material creation. It is the Lord's agency to control the entire material creation, kickstart it, drive it, and finally to wrap it up. I recollect an old Hindi movie by the name Waqt. Waqt means time. And it had a beautiful song which somehow still sticks in my memory. And the words of this song are, Waqt se din aur raat, Waqt se kal aur aaj, Waqt ki har shay gulam, Waqt ka har shay pe raj, Kaun jaane kis ghadi, Waqt ka badle mijaz, Aadmi ko chahiye, Waqt se dhar kar rahe. So actually, this is exactly given in the Bhagavatam. Time is the most powerful element by which Krishna controls the whole creation, this material creation. Time is non-existent in the spiritual world. It is only existent in the material world. With time, a child grows up and blossoms into adulthood. One's potencies then manifest, and accordingly, one makes a place for oneself in the social setup. One can either shape up like the Pandavas, or like Duryodhan and the Kauravas. One's latent qualities come to the fore. The Pandavas highlighted surrender to God, Krishna's will. Duryodhan rebelled. He was still given a chance as Shantidut Krishna came to him. But he was the personification of Kali, embodiment of quarrel and hypocrisy, and he logically met his end because he was not willing to take the good advice of Krishna, and therefore he had to be annihilated. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shrir Vijaya Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. The last verse of the Gita sums it up, that wherever there is Krishna, the supreme master of all the yogas, wherever there is his faithful follower and disciple Arjun, the one who is eager to discharge his duties according to the will of the Lord, there will be success and beauty. So, very shortly, Sanjaya told Dhritarashtra that it is the Pandavas who are going to win the war, and your sons will be defeated. Similarly, I remember when I was in my college days, I was a member of the Leo Club, and we had a meeting, and there the famous cricketer Vijay Merchant came, and he said, in cricket, a cricketer has to retire in proper time. People should ask, why now? Why are you retiring now? People should not ask, why not? Why are you not retiring? You should not overstay your duration of active life in cricket. In the same way, in the field of life also, one should know what is the goal of one's life and accordingly take a back seat when the time comes. Let us take a look briefly at the contents of this chapter. Chapter 15th, we are about to begin. Kind of an introduction. It starts with the lamentation of Arjun and other Pandavas on Krishna's disappearance. We can see their strong attachment to Krishna, their resolute sense of purpose, not being swayed by circumstances or emotions or attachments, their total detachment from things material, and therefore their decision to quit was a matter of course, not like Dhritarashtra, who had not just to be counseled by Vidura, but also compelled by Vidura to quit. When confronted by adversities, one's true quality shows up. If you are carrying a glass of orange juice and someone bumps into you, what will happen? The juice will spill over. Why? Because that is what is there in the cup. So that only will spill over. Similarly, what is there in our consciousness when you face adversities and calamities in life, that consciousness will show up as your response. How you respond will actually show what is your consciousness. Similarly, in whichever consciousness one is in, one will respond accordingly. Draupadi, when being dragged into the Asat Sabha, first approached the king. She approached the king because there is a saying in the Subhashit, Durbalana balam raja balana rodanam balam sadhunam balam satyam choranam anritam balam. The meaning of this is, for ones who are weak, they depend on the strength of the king for justice. For the child, the strength is in crying. रोते हुए बच्चे को ही दूध मिलेगा. And for a sadhu, speaking truth is his strength. For a thief, speaking lies is his strength. So for different people, it is according to what they are. Finally, so then what did Draupadi do? She first approached Dhritarashtra, then she went to Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and then she came to her husbands, the Pandavas. Finally, when all the doors were shut and the options exhausted, including her own limited effort, she threw up her hands in surrender totally and helplessly to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Why? Because her consciousness was always fixed on Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the one and only shelter. She taught us, do your best, leave the rest, depend on Him to pass the test. Krishna reciprocated divinely. He did not come with the Sudarshan in his hand to chop off Dushasan's head. He is unlimited and infinite, and he came as endless sari to protect her honor. When I was very small, I attended a discourse by a very famous Kathakar, and he said there are two interpretations to this incident of Draupadi. One can describe it as Draupadi Vastra Apaharanam, disrobing Draupadi. But the better way to describe it is Draupadi Mana Samrakshanam, saving the honor of Draupadi. The Pandavas, after the battle of Mahabharat, were enthroned as the king. The whole planet was under their rule. They were victorious, celebrated, and undisputed leaders. In one swift move, Yudhishthir gave up everything, appointed Parikshit as the king, donned the dress of a mendicant, and without informing others, quit everything and walked northwards. He had no business to be here once Krishna quit the world. His existence was only to assist the Lord. Being the emperor was a byproduct. That was not his goal. Others followed in the same spirit, not reluctantly, with a heavy heart, but voluntarily. Their goal was the same. Pandavas signify unity of purpose. Therefore, they were victorious. Kauravas were divided by their self-interest. Pandavas retired at the height of their glory, not when defeated. They exemplified the words of Bhagavad Gita 5.10. Brahmanyadi karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yah lipyate sana papena padmapatra ivam bhasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus leaf is untouched by water, though in the world not of this world. The lotus leaf has a wax coating. Even a drop of water, when it falls on it, simply rolls off, does not stay. The Pandavas similarly were unaffected by the objects of pleasure, power, prestige of this world. Their attachment was Krishna, fully spiritual, with no material tinge of contamination. They had no second thoughts of relinquishing their worldly possessions and positions, both. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj once said, when he was giving a lecture, he said, when one is in ISKCON, over a long period of time, one will get power and position if that is what one wants. But if one serves simply out of love for Krishna and Guru, then only will one get devotion, bhakti, the topmost treasure. The Pandavas literally walked out of this world, following the Supreme Lord, who exited this world. Those whose attachment to the Lord is very strong suffer due to separation from the Lord. That is the tragedy in their life. They have no other tragedy. Therefore, Haridas Thakur prayed for the benediction of living before the Lord. Haridas Thakur left on the day of Ananta Chaturdashi, drinking the beauty of the full moon-like face of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, Bhishma, one of the 12 Mahajans, got the same benefit of exiting this world, beholding Krishna's beautiful form and face, and in full consciousness of the Lord on the day of Makara Sankranti, generally which falls on the 14th of January, the starting of Uttarayan. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. Bhagavad Gita 8.5 states, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So now Arjuna is suffering the pangs of separation from Krishna. That is his tragedy. I am very sincerely grateful to His Grace Radhika Vallabh Prabhu and His Grace Pavaneshwar Prabhu for whatever inputs they have given me so that I can speak a few words. Yesterday I was fortunate to hit upon from the internet a lecture by Srila Prabhupada on this very verse, spoken in New York on the 29th of November 1973. The lecture given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada on Canto 1, Chapter 15, verse number 1. So, Arjuna's name is Krishna Sakha, sometimes also called as friend of Krishna. Arjuna is actually representing each and every living entity, all of us. But Arjuna is a soul surrendered to Krishna. Now that Krishna has left the planet, he is morose, unhappy, dejected, crestfallen. Factually, that is our position in this material world. Prabhupada beautifully connects. Arjuna is grief-stricken, but he says Arjuna is representing each one of us. We are in this world unhappy. We are not happy in this world. We are unhappy here because we are separated from Krishna. A child separated from mother will naturally cry. The root cause of her unhappiness is separation from Krishna in this material world. The Mundaka Upanishad says, 3.1.1, the Lord and the living entities are compared to two birds sitting in a tree. While one bird, the illusioned living entity, eats the fruits of the material world, the Lord, as the supersoul, the other bird, and best friend, witnesses these activities. So Prabhupada says that the modern day philosophers and the scientists have completely missed this point, the most important point. What is this material creation? And the source of this entire material creation, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, until and unless one continues to maintain that connection to that Lord, one cannot be happy. All the other things that they suggest, they have missed this point that our true identity of being the spirit soul and not the visible body made of matter is missed out by the so-called modern philosophers and so-called scientists. When one says we are spirit souls part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna, who is God, the rebellious souls who are here only because they do not want to accept the overlordship of God. They do not want to surrender to the will of Krishna, but want to be the enjoyer in their own right, which can never be. To try to improve, that is, to get out of unhappy state of mind, the philosophers and scientists are inventing various gadgets and neo-systems to make people happy. They do not want to accept Krishna or God. That, they say, is not subject of laboratorical proof. Can you present Krishna, God, in a test tube for me to see him under the microscope or show me in the sky with the help of the telescope? God is generally addressed as Uparwala. So now we can go up in the space, but where is he? He is not visible. So he is not there, or he is simply a subject for belief or faith beyond proof that they dismiss as unscientific. If you can see, I must also be able to see. Otherwise, I do not accept that is their stand. Often Prabhupada uses the term, they have a poor fund of knowledge. Actually, their knowledge runs into several libraries of books. Answer is, they have no knowledge of the spirit. God is wholly spiritual. We are minute spirits. The Gita says the size of the soul is 1/10,000 the tip of the hair, so small that it cannot be seen under a microscope. But even if one gets a super microscope, it still cannot be seen because by nature it is beyond the senses, can only be accepted by faith in the scriptures and by the grace of God, Lord Krishna himself and the advanced devotees, the spiritual masters. People are bogged by the question, did the hen come first or the egg? So they conveniently skip it, but will not accept Krishna came first. Krishna says in the Gita, Sarvayonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yah tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita. He says, I am the seed-giving father for all the species of life. Then they say, show me Krishna. But you cannot. So again they go back to the same argument. When we were small, I heard a poem. There is a hole in the bucket, oh Henry, oh Henry. So whatever they say, ultimately it comes back to the point, but I cannot fetch the water because there is a hole in the bucket. So in the same way, these scientists and philosophers, they are sticking to the same rut. Show me Krishna. You cannot. He is beyond that. So then they are coming back to square one. Prabhupada is not against scientists. He is only against atheists. Actually, there was one distant relative of mine who was a big scientist in USA. But he contracted cancer. And he was on the deathbed, the last stage. So I told my sister, who was at that time in US, I told him, please give him a copy of the Gita. Let him read it. Let him go through it little bit, what he can. So she answered that she gave it to him, and what he said is, sorry, we have gone so deep in material science, now cannot come out of it. The Gita is not acceptable to me. This is the mentality Prabhupada disapproves. Newton was also a scientist, but he was a believer. The law of gravity is what he propounded. But what did he say? When he was appreciated, he said, I feel like a small child playing on the seashore, picking up a beautiful pebble here and a shiny pebble there, while the vast ocean of knowledge lies undiscovered in front of me. That was his humility. And he was also a believer because when he made a beautiful model of the solar system based on the law of gravity, a friend of his who was also a scientist came to the room and he said, give me this. I want to take this model. He said, no, I cannot give it to you. He said, from where did you get it? He said, it just came by its own accord. His friend said, why are you trying to bluff? He said, when the scriptures tell us that this creation, this planet and this entire solar system and the whole universe is created by Lord, you say no, there is no God in creation. There is no God who is the source of creation. So when I say I made this model of the solar system, you say it cannot come by itself. So how can this real solar system come by itself if there is no God? So this was the stand of Newton. This was his mentality. Everything in nature is supplied to us by God. And that God, he says in 15.15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matas mritir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaischa sarve rahameva vedyo Vedanta krit vidya viddeha chaham. Even the mentality of the atheist to deny the existence of Krishna also comes from Krishna. He only gives us the intelligence to do that. But because he does not interfere with the free will of the living entity at any stage, the ability that is there in man is also coming from Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita 9.8, Krishna states, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabdake paurusham nrinam. He says, I am the taste in water, the essential element of water that gives the special USP of water, taste. Then he says, Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo. I am the light in the sun and the moon. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. I am the Om syllable in all the Vedic chants. And then he says, Shabda Ke. I am the sound in ether. And then finally he says, Paurusham Dranam. I am the ability in man, the ability to do, the ability to perform, to sing, to speak, to chant. Whatever man does, all that ability comes from Krishna. So that is Krishna's my mercy to all of us, whatever abilities he has given us. There are 4 things in the hands of the Lord: Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. Padma, that is first Krishna extends his hand of friendship to the living entities. The intelligent will try to accept that. Then Krishna, if the person does not accept his hand of friendship, then he blows the shank and calls him, Arey bhai, kahan ja raha hai? Aa mere paas. The less intelligent, when they see others suffer and hear about that, then they come to their senses and then they come to accept Krishna, the second stage. But even in that stage, if one does not come to Krishna, then what does Krishna do? The foolish, mudha, even after seeing, will not learn until they themselves suffer. So then he has to give a blow with his gada or the mace, so that the adversities of life, the difficulties, the problems that we face is actually the blow given by Krishna's gada to each one in our life. That is also one way of Krishna calling us back. Arey bhai, kahan ja raha hai? Please turn to me. I am your well-wisher. I am your protector. Just come to me. Do not get entangled in this material world. But the envious, even after suffering, will still rebel. So for them, he has the Sudarshan Chakra. That is what he did to Shishupal. Shishupal never stopped blaspheming the Lord. So when the count reached 100, then Krishna let out the Sudarshan Chakra. But that was also an act of compassion by Krishna. Because by that, they cannot do further aprad. Their aprad is halted there. They cannot disturb others more. So the society is not saved from that. So this way, Krishna is very, very merciful and kind. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of the Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men led by other materially attached men are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. Prahlad Maharaj's words of instruction to Hiranyakashipu. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, verse 31. So Prabhupada says, with all the skyscrapers, motor cars and the big cities, there is still no happiness in this world because they are missing the point of connection to and surrender to Krishna. That is what ISKCON is giving. Accept Krishna in your life and you will be happy. Search for happiness is the first of the 6 sessions of the journey of self-discovery. Instead of just trying to go outwards, we have to actually go inwards. We have to discover our own self. And in that journey, the first is the search for happiness. And it explains we are searching for happiness in the wrong place in this material world. There is true happiness in the spiritual world, and the way to go there is by the process of devotional service. As living entities, our connection to Krishna is very intimate, like father and son, like master and servant. Krishna bhuliya jeev bhoga vancha kare, nikatastha maya tare jhapatiya dhare. Prabhupada has quoted this verse. For those who want to enjoy bhoga vancha, forgetful of Krishna, Krishna's own external energy, Maya, the illusory potency, is waiting to pounce and arrest that living entity. Like when you disobey the laws of government, the police will arrest you. Then, subject to the power of illusion, one simply goes on and on, chasing the horizon that is never to arrive, working hard, foaming at the mouth, and wearing the collar of hard work as a prized possession, and fondly waiting for entry into that paradise which is visible on the horizon, just a few kilometers away. But as you go those few kilometers, it recedes equally away. I will earn enough to provide for me and my family, will holiday in my old age, and see my children happily settled. But health may fail, children may not be settled, wealth may dwindle due to inflation, or fire or natural calamities may take away your property. They still will say, no, I will not give up. I will build again. But age will not be in your favor then. Then they say, be positive. Never lose hope. God only helps those who help themselves. So these are all their mantras. But they will not turn to God. Only Krishna is the Bhokta. And then he quotes, the one who can really enjoy is Krishna. So Prabhupada quotes this shloka. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shanti mirchati. Chapter 5 verse 29 of the Gita. This Krishna conscious movement is trying to convince people we are not the enjoyer. Krishna is the true enjoyer. All the necessities of life are supplied by Krishna. Bread cannot be manufactured in factories. Grains come from the fields. Rain can come only by God's grace. Prabhupada gives a beautiful example to tell us how we are not the enjoyers. He says the hands, the legs, and the sense organs can collect food and feed the stomach. Only the stomach can digest the food and nourish the body. Without that digestive power, our limbs and senses will not perform. And so Krishna says in chapter 15, verse number 14 of the Gita, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita Pranapana Samayuktam Pachamyannam Chaturbhujam. He says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuffs. Jatar Agni, fire in the belly, is the result of combustion. Oxygenated red blood corpuscles enter the digestive tract, and with the help of digestive juices, that is hydrochloric acid, which is secreted by the liver, it burns the food, releasing the nutrients from the food for building tissues and cells. Fire gives heat. The body temperature is constant because there is a constant fire burning in the stomach, and that fire has to be fed. That is why we need food regularly. When a person dies, the body becomes cold. There is no heat. But Krishna says, I am that digestive power. I am that digestive fire. Even on the bodily level, we are 100% dependent on Krishna's mercy. When a person is diseased, he must not eat things that will accentuate his disease. He has a cold. He should not eat ice cream. If he still continues to eat ice cream after taking the tablets, the disease will not subside. Those who are attached to sense enjoyment will not accept restrictions. That lifestyle of the living entity I will do what I want and I will take measures to still control my body. They are the followers of Pravritti Marg. They say, I have my freedom, and they are under the grip of Maya. One elderly lady, I remember when I went to a doctor, he told her, आपको diabetes हो गया है. You know what she said? गोड़ खाए बिना नहीं चलेगा. अरे गोली दो ने. That is what she said. This is the mentality of the people in the world generally. They just want sense gratification at any cost. We do not have that kind of freedom. We have to follow God's rules, surrender to His will, or else we will be forced to going through difficulties. Nivritti means accepting the regulative principles of freedom. That is the 4 rules that Prabhupada has so nicely given us. I remember I had one cousin, he's no more, long back he expired, but he was much elder to me. So he said, I like sugarcane juice. When I drink sugarcane juice, 1 glass, half glass is not enough for me. I drink 1 liter at a time. That is what he said. But later on, what happened? He had kidney problem. And what did the doctor tell him? In the whole of the day, including the dal in your lunch, you must take only 1 liter of water. Nothing more than that. Your kidney cannot filter more than that. His kidneys had shrunk and ultimately he passed away. So, we are not independent of God. God has given us free will. But if we choose to disobey and go away from Him, the forces of nature, Maya, will bring us back to obedience. The sooner we realize this, the better it is for us. So in the 19th verse of the 16th chapter, Krishna says, Tanyaham dushitam kruran sansareshu naradhaman shipami asrajam ashrubhan asuram ashrubhan asurim ashvayenushenushu. That those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of materialistic existence, into various demonic species of life. So what has Chaitanya Mahaprabhu done? He has saved us from all that kind of a situation. He has given us Jivera Swarup Hoye Nityera Krishna Das. So he says, Krishnera Tatastha Shakti Bheda Bheda Prakash. Better surrender, otherwise Maya Japatiya Dhari. Maya is waiting to pounce and catch you. Then we get entangled in problems. So if you break God's laws, police will arrest you. That is Maya. She is Krishna's police. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he says, Manasa Deho Geho Jo Kichu Mora Arpita Tuva Pade Nanda Kishora. So then that is what we should be doing. Anything that we have, completely, simply offer it in Krishna's service, and then we will be safe. So people say, I am an independent king. I am the Lord of all that I survey. So then Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, verse number 4 says, Deha patyakalatra dishva atma sainyeshva satsvapi tesham nidanam pramatta pashyannapi na pashyati. This body, wife, children are all fallible soldiers, all die, but people don't see that. And still, because of their pride, they are dependent on all these fallible soldiers, but they don't turn to Krishna. So, then Krishna says in the Gita, finally, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayikshami mashucha. He says, just give up all this nonsense, simply surrender unto me. I am giving you a shortcut. The only solution to all the crises in the world is Krishna consciousness. This is what Prabhupada has stated. People are mudha, they are dushkritina. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya parittagyana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who participate of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender to me. So the preachers have to deal with these kind of people, mudas and rascals. These are the words of Prabhupada, Naradhama. So he says, today's people are advanced in education, but fool number one. This is Prabhupada's words. Operation successful, patient dead. Because they do not believe in God. Scientists who believe that creation is from matter, life comes from matter, and they get a Nobel Prize for those kind of theories. The only cause of all problem is forgetfulness of Krishna. Krishna is like the one moon that gives light in the whole of night, but there may be 1,000 stars, but these 1,000 stars cannot light the sky. So the modern day philosophers and the modern day scientists, that is the atheistic ones, are like those millions of stars. They are like the glowworms. They have some light, but that light is of no practical use. The real light that we get from the moon is the light of Krishna, from the effulgence of Krishna. That alone can save us from the entrapment of this material world. So today, I will be taking one little liberty, and that is, since whatever I have read and spoken is from Prabhupada's own lecture, and I am so glad that I was able to repeat what Param Guru Srila Prabhupada has said. And on this day, what I could not do then, I would like to do, and that is give my offerings to Srila Prabhupada, which I had written on the 20th of August 2022, on his appearance day, a prayer unto his lotus feet. Prabhupada, you are an all-time great. From the spiritual world, you have come straight to save the fallen souls on earth from the repeated cycle of death and birth. You have compassion for one and all. In the crowd of men, you stand tall. The spiritual world is your true home, and you wish to take each one back home. This world is a jail. Come back on bail to your original home. Now please set sail. You inform each soul, don't waste your time in chasing the horizon that's not to arrive. Such knowledge profound, that's unbound. With a loving heart, you make it so simple to sound. On your appearance day today, please give me a drop of your grace to come out of this worldly race and be sheltered in Krishna's grace. Your Dasanudas, Radhapati Das. But also, today's topic, which we discussed, I have also summarized that in the form of another poem. This topic is separation from Krishna. That is today's topic. Grief in separation from Krishna. And devotees enjoy unbounded pleasure in their union with Krishna. So there is meeting with Krishna and there is separation with Krishna. So the title is Yog Viyog. It is in Hindi. कृष्णा प्यारे राज दुलारे माखन चोर तुम फिर भी प्यारे आंखों से ओझल हो रहते फिर भी सबके दिल में बसते दूर दूरी से तुम दूर न जाते इच्छा से तुम पास हो आते है अनोखी रीत तुम्हारी प्रीत की डोरी से है जुड़ते ऋषि मुनि को पीछे छोड़े ग्वालन की डोरी से बनते न्यारे न्यारे करतूं तो से सारे जग को पाठ पढ़ाते यतन करो तुम अपने श्रम से सफल बनो ईश्वरी कृपा से ऐसे प्रभु वो कहाँ है मिलते जो बालक बन आंगन में खिलते प्रभु ये मेरी प्रार्थना तुमसे कभी न बिछड़े हम सब तुमसे गुरु चरणों की आश्रय में हम सदा रहे बस तुमसे जुड़ते बस एक ही नारा है हमारी नाम तुम्हारी सबसे प्यारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे आपका दासानुदास राधा हरे कृष्णा थैंक यू वेरी मच ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय